Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Fog Cloud.
Oh, it's so foggy. I can't see 5 feet in front of me.
Brilliant.
Thanks. I'm a thespian. This is the first level cast time of an action, range of 120 foot, 20-foot radius sphere spell. Various magic components, concentration, an hour duration. Concentration really hurts the spell. I think if I were to make a perfect game, I would take away concentration from Fog Cloud. Sorry, it gets dismissed by a stiff breeze. We'll get to that in a second. You create a 20-foot radius sphere of fog centered on a point within range. The sphere spreads around corners and its area is heavily obscured. What does that mean? Well, we'll touch on that shortly. It lasts for the duration or until wind of a moderate or greater speed, at least 10 miles per hour, disperses it. And at this point, I don't know why they just didn't save words and say if a wind at least 10 miles per hour or far or faster disperses it. Use less words, wizards, is what I'm saying. Anyway, you can upcast it, increase its range by 20 foot for each level beyond first. This is one of those niche effects where it's it kind of does do more if you upcast it because over doubles the area the first time because it's like a 20-foot radius to a 40-foot radius. That's a gigantic difference. Going to 20 or 40 to 60 is slightly it's doubling it less. I think I don't remember the exact math on it, but it is getting even bigger. The 60-foot radius sphere is gigantic, so there will, I think, be some instances where you might consider upcasting this, and I think it's something to not write off. But this spell is hampered in a couple different meaningful ways, so that's not amazing, but it's still a spell I think you can be happy enough with to put on your sheet. I think
I do like the upcasting in this one because, yeah, doubling the area is still pretty cheap as a second level spell, and yeah,
and
sometimes
again,
even higher levels. If this is useful, then that makes it doubly useful.
yeah, doubling the radius more than doubles the radius of it, right? Because you're going from a 20-foot radius to a 40-foot radius, so that whole of the area is way larger on upcast. It's you'll feel it at the table. A 20-foot radius sphere doesn't feel that big. A 40-foot radius sphere feels giant. So it's a real thing to think about whenever you're thinking about it. No, heavily obscure, I'll read it real quick. So heavily obscured areas such as darkness, opaque fog, or dense foliage blocks vision entirely. A creature suffers from the blinding condition when trying to see something within the area. That's what it does. That's it. So everything basically in the fog cloud is blinded functionally. Doesn't matter if the thing is within 5 feet of you, it is blinded, which is decent. Now, we can continue going on that rabbit hole. What does the blinded condition do? Well, blinded imposes some nasty things, namely that attack rolls against you have advantage, and attack rolls you make have disadvantage. This and any that rely on sight. A blinded creature can't see and automatically feels any ability checks require sight, and attack rolls the creature that I'm reading the words, and I'm annoyed. Because attack rolls against the creature have advantage, and the creature's attack rolls have disadvantage, and that is agnostic about sight. So it doesn't matter. What's important is that your attack rolls have advantage, attack rolls against you have advantage, attack rolls you have a disadvantage, basically. Which means, if there's two people in a fog cloud that vaguely know where they are, they're at parity, so all the attacks they have against each other are made as normal. Just, well, I normally have advantage, but I'm attacking a disadvantage, they normally have advantage, they're attacking a disadvantage. If you can forego the heavy obscurity of something like a blind sight, you can take advantage of these kinds of things, right? So that's the whole darkness warlock shtick, is that you can see through magical darkness, enemies can't, so you get advantage on all your attack rolls. They have a disadvantage on the attack rolls against you. It's kind of neat.
Oh, seeing through magical darkness is different than seeing through obscurity, isn't it?
Correct.
Yes.
Because you're looking as if you're not heavily obscured at all. And this, so it also is important to note, right, that blocks vision entirely. A creature effectively suffers from the blinded condition when trying to see something in that area. So if you're not trying to see something in the area while you're using the heavily obscured conditions, such as if you're using a blind sight, you're just trying to sense them, that still may allow you to use the other sentences in a fashion that you don't get the disadvantage from the attack rolls. Your mileage may vary, though, because these words aren't perfect, right? We had to go from heavily obscured, which is functionally blinding, in a condition that you're trying to see a thing. Well, the blinded condition imposes attack rolls with disadvantage and stuff, and automatically fails ability checks and stuff. So there's going to be some amount of gray area your DM is going to arbitrate as you manage these kinds of effects like Fog Cloud.
All
now,
right.
Bob, how do you use this? Now that we've talked about everything it technically does, which is mainly everything in the area gets disadvantage on attack rolls while they're in the area, what do you do with that?
I don't know. I always have a problem with these kinds of spells because, they can't see you, you can't see them. It's not great for fighting either melee or ranged. I guess no, just not great. I don't know.
you basically have to find a way to break parity with this if you want to use it in combat. You need to find a way to get a blind sight. You need to find a way to be able to sense and attack and see enemies within the fog cloud to take advantage of it. It might be the kind of thing, right, where like you know that there's a defensible position that they're trying to hold. If there's a space that and monsters don't want to leave, throw a fog cloud on it and then blow the crap out of it with some fireballs, right? Like that is a thing you could consider doing, force them to vacate a space. But like at that point, you might as well just send another fireball their way. You might as well like, keep whaling things with them. I don't think I mentioned the classes for this. This is a druid, ranger, sorcerer, wizard, tempest domain, and genie, warlock. They all get this. I think this ends up being like you suggested, kind of middling in combat, hard to make the most use out of. It ends up being more of an out of combat utility tool. But I do think that there is a decent amount of stuff there. I think that as a smoke bomb, it's a cheap, accessible way to say this area is heavily obscured. Steal, right? It's the kind of area where you go, no one can see anything happening in this area. Everyone's blinded, automatically fails the perception checks. I yoink everything I possibly can. That is a cute little thing you can do with Fog Cloud. It's a way to sneak past guards. It's a way to, you'll definitely draw attention, but you can make it like murder mystery moment. The daggers, as you plunge the dagger into the back, your buddy drops Fog Cloud on the space. The person dies. No one knows who killed them. You run away, all that kind of stuff.
Then they definitely know. It's the guy that ran away.
Yeah, normally. You leave the dagger in their back, and then you just go, oh, I'm shocked, and not covered in their blood, obviously.
Yeah, I guess you could also use it if you just need some privacy while you're taking a dump.
Yeah. If I just take a dump in the woods all the time, now you can be like, I'd like to do this in private where I can't see anything. Which is honestly a little unnerving. But if you want to get caught with your pants down, that's the easiest way to do it. Is I can't see anything happening around me, and they're like, "What's this eerie fog cloud?" And someone walks into it, and it's just like, "I taking a dump." All right.
See, like I'm thinking not in the woods or anything, because you got enough privacy out there. I'm thinking like in a crowded marketplace.
Just pulling your pants down, taking a dump in a crowded marketplace.
Yes.
Is the suggestion here? Sure. If that's what you're about, go for it. I think I've overrated the spell a lot in the past. I've tried to play with it a little bit more of recent, and I have never been that impressed with what it's doing. There have been a couple instances where I've seen it casted just like a stone nothing, where it's kind of expected to do more, especially in combat. I've seen this kind of come down as a fog cloud, so they can't see us, and they just go, okay, move 15 feet out of it. And it's like, yeah, you would do that. That does make sense, which makes it a really hard little spell, I think, to make a ton of use of. And again, I think what really kills this for me is the concentration. So like even in the upper tiers, I can't be concentrating on something while I use these as cool little like heavy obscurity areas. I don't think this is any business taking concentration. I think you should be able to have just billions of these around. Why not? Like cobble them together, the upcast to make bigger areas anyway. I don't think that would really hurt the spell, and it would make it at least a little bit more flexible in the mid to upper tiers. The fact that it has concentration in the mid to upper tiers makes it something that like I don't think I can regularly get out whenever I'm maintaining summon effects, when I'm maintaining long duration concentration effects that I want to maintain. So it's like a middling utility that gets worse as the game progresses. I'm not sure.
It's also hurt by the blindness rules and everything.
Yeah.
Like if there are creatures in a fog cloud, they're blind. I'm not blind. I can't see them directly, sure, but I kind of have an idea where they are. I feel like I could shoot arrows at them more effectively than they could do the same to me, because I'm moving around. I can see.
They're also moving around in a 40-foot diameter area,
but they're bumping into each other, and like, I don't know. I think the
excuse me. I think you're right.
The blindness rules need a reworking.
Maybe. I think that is also like this spell would benefit a lot from there being some other benefit to casting it on enemies, some other benefit to slamming this down in a space to say, okay, like taking disengagement for free, for example, is something I think could improve this, right? Where it's like things that are blind automatically miss on attack rolls that rely on sight would make it so attacks of opportunity are no longer threatening to you. So you could use this like an actual smoke bomb in combat to say, I need to disengage, crap, let's go. If you throw this down in combat and you try and leave with it, you just wasted an action and not even got to disengage out of the deal, that something can still attack you and try and hit you, and then you take a bunch of damage. Maybe you can still use that as a way to, like, they don't necessarily see where you go, but I think this spell would be improved if the game were just handled the vision rules slightly differently. I agree.
Well, I think they would see where you go, because, I mean, rules is written, all blindness does is, give you disadvantage on attacking them. Unless you take the hide action.
This is one of those kinds of things that I think is really dumb, and I think it's going to vary pretty wildly table to table, right? The rules as written, blinded condition doesn't specify doesn't specify that you don't observe. It just says you can't see. So if you can sense where they're going in other fashions, it's valuable. At the same time, in a big noisy environment, I think a lot of DMs will still rule that they don't know where you went whenever you went. Like if there's 3 different directions they could have gone and you leave the fog cloud running off in a different direction, I think it's fairly safe to assume the monster has to guess what direction you go. But that's not rules it's written, and it's going to vary DM to DM. Some DMs will be like, no, they know the direction you went because they heard your footsteps very clearly. And I'm going to say that. How often do you know exactly where that kind of thing is? But it's
well. What if all right? Say there's 3 tunnels.
Yeah.
You just say, all right, I want to attack with my arrows, and all you get is disadvantage. Like if you hit them, then you know which tunnel they went down.
Well, it's also this kind of thing, right? Like, should they know where that person is? And I think the very nature of like shooting blindly into 3 dark tunnels, knowing where the creature is that you're shooting at, comes down to a lot of context that the game doesn't, I don't think, handle that well, and it makes the DM sort of handle that way. And I think a lot of DMs do handle it pretty fine. They do have like the contextual rules, and they say, no, it doesn't make sense that you would know where that creature is, or no, it does make sense that you would know where that creature is. So like, you know, your violence is basically going to be entirely up to the DM you're playing with, and that's not the end of the world. It does hamper Fog Cloud's average case utility. You don't necessarily know how it's going to interface on a case by case basis, but it is going to be handled differently on a case by case basis. So just something to keep in mind. I think I overrate this. I think it's still probably just like a 2. I think it, as far as utility spells goes, the concentration really hurts it. The duration doesn't really matter that much. Most of the time you need it for 15 seconds, and then you don't care about it at all anymore. There's no real reason for it to have an hour-long duration.
For
so
an hour. That's what. How do you feel it compares to a spell like Darkness?
It's worse in most every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
I think Darkness being not dispersible matters. This is not usable outdoors for the most part, because a 10-mile-an-hour wind gust is not a large gust.
Yeah.
Like that's a mild breeze. So a mild breeze disperses the fog cloud, which makes it really like, as a DM, I will never voluntarily dismiss this with natural winds. Other DMs absolutely will, though, because it makes sense that would occur.
Yep.
I find it's a kind of dickish thing to do, so I tend to avoid that kind of thing. It's like, well, the spell's already not that great. But Darkness at least is guaranteed to be permanent to some degree. And there are builds that incorporate seeing through magical darkness, which makes it a lot more useful, I think.
All right. Yeah, what do you give this, a 2?
I think so. I think I've overrated this in the past.
I feel like there's uses that we just haven't come up with. I'm gonna give it a speculative 3.
This is one of those moments where it's like Fabricate, where it's like there should be things to do with this. I just don't see them readily happening, and I don't think that they're that good when they happen.
Yeah. I've kind of warmed up on Fabricate since we did that video. But
maybe we'll do a top 5 things Sam got most wrong video. We'll talk about spells that people have the biggest dissenting opinions on.
Are you admitting there are 5 things?
I haven't made a single mistake ever, so obviously not. But what people perceive are my mistakes. There we go.
There you go. All right. Well, that was Fog Cloud. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think in the comments, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.